Hey folks, back here at HumanX 2026. Super excited to have Homer here from TinyFish. Very quickly, tell us what TinyFish is, who's it for, and how's it being used in this AI era? I know
Sure.
you guys are an AI company.
Awesome. Well, thank you for reminding me, first of all, and I'm extremely honored to be here. And actually, we're just talking about this before that, but TinyFish is essentially the web infrastructure company that's serving all developers and enterprises and teams and business users who are trying to tap into the single largest database on planet Earth, which is the web itself. And we believe that the web was built for humans, for us to actually browse, search, do these things, but it's not built for machines. The reason I say that is because, right, if you think about actually getting things done on the web, what does it entail? Right, it probably needs a little bit more actioning. Right, once you found something, you want to act like a human to be able to go in to click on things, to scroll, to analyze, then extract, to reason on top of it, and then to finally automate that entire flow. So that's what TinyFish does, is to give anyone sort of that entire complete platform and infrastructure for anyone to automate anything on the web itself.
Awesome. Well, web scrapers have been around for a long time, or crawlers or bots, probably going back to maybe late 90s, and like even the early Google bot was that building index. How is it different in today's era of the semantic knowledge that's on the web that people are trying to interact with from AI, and maybe the things that they're using TinyFish to do? It's probably not just getting the page contents, it's going and doing actions.
Yeah. No, totally. That's a great question. So, like you said, right, Michael, there's scrapers, there's crawlers, there's all bunch of stuff that developers tried. And in fact, we're still seeing, developers trying to find different ways to build their own things, right? Their own automation, try to launch their own browser, try to set up some kind of LLM bolting on top of it to be able to automate those flows. But the problem actually doesn't go away. It doesn't matter how much AI you throw on top of it or how much scaffolding that you have. The fundamental principle of the web itself is that it was built in a way such that it's protecting its data in its own wall guard. It's complex. It's hostile. And in one word, the way to describe it, it's just simply hard and inaccessible for AI and machines and agents to be able to tap into it and to really captivate the value on top of it, right? So the way that I think about it is, uh, if everyone else is busy building ships and submarines to try to explore the ocean itself, which is the web, we're busy getting you the tiny fish. We get you the contact with the tiny fish, the native creature of the ocean themselves, to be able to navigate it, to be able to do things on your behalf, as opposed to building additional scaffoldings that really don't work. So I think I know I talked about it in a more abstract way, but that's at a high level how we're thinking about it.
Love it. And love the analogy and the company name, of course, as to where it came from.
Yeah.
Um, what are people building on top of TinyFish? If you can give us kind of some examples, maybe to help contextualize it for anyone, listening here. What are specific things that people are trying to accomplish? I don't know if you could talk to any specific customers or what they're doing today. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing more and more developers and builders tapping into the power, and the reason why we're starting to describe ourselves as a complete toolkit platform and infrastructure is really the fact that people see the potential themselves and they want to build with it, right? So they're the kind of use cases that we're seeing a lot, right? People are using it to conduct all kinds of live and deep research, and also to be able to collect data, massive data at massive scale, unstructured data, messy data that don't exist already and prep ready for you in a clean data warehouse, a database, or data lake, but otherwise would live inside the web itself, right? It lives in maybe another competitor's website. Maybe it lives somewhere out there, right? Behind some login, behind some interactive gates. And we also see that, there's also a use case where people are building some kind of monitoring mechanisms on top of it, right? So that they can see how certain websites would change over time. And so those are like sort of the high level sort of task-based use case, but inherently, you can think of all the verticals and the industries that we can go in, whether it's in healthcare, in financial services, right, in auto and all kinds of industries. In fact, we're already seeing like huge enterprises tap into us, like Google, DoorDash, ClassPass. We have a lot of huge enterprise logos as well. You can imagine the use cases really spread across, but anything that touches the web itself, that's TinyFish.
Those are some incredible customers to grow with. Well, I've managed to make it at least a few minutes here without saying the A word, which is agents. Um,
We've been getting tired of that all
Everybody
day.
here is talking about agents. agents using infrastructure, sandboxes, agents signing up for services, writing code, browsing the web. What are you seeing at TinyFish in terms of how agents are using your product or people building agents using TinyFish?
Totally. And actually, when I was giving the talk earlier, we're talking about what are the defensible moats these days, right? And one of the questions that was asked from the audience, which I genuinely wanted to give an answer with, but we unfortunately ran out of time, was when we think about building products these days, right? Should we think about building for human users or should we think about building for agents? Now, fundamentally, and I know this might be one of your questions you're going to ask, which is, what are we hearing from customers? What are we seeing from the market is that the old metrics of measuring sort of daily active users, people using your UI or going to your platform, those days are gone. And the way that I say that is because, you have to build your product. Your product has to be for the agents. And it doesn't matter if you're building agents for agents, it has to be serving these machines, right? These other agents that are accessing you as a service. So the way that I think more about it and the trend that I'm seeing is that products are more becoming tools and skills for other agents, more general use agents and user facing agents to be able to, automate certain things and be the best, right, in a particular category. Like how WorkOS is, finding a very good vertical to go in and be the best in that category. And that's the same thing that we're trying to do with TinyFish to automate the web.
Do you have suggestions for ways that people can make their products or websites or applications or kind of whatever like agent forward or agent ready? Like the canonical example is always like Markdown,
Mm,
return Markdown, but there's got to be
mhm,
more than just
mhm.
that. What do you see?
Yeah, I think that's that's a very good question because whenever we're trying to talk about uh, evolving towards the next stage, right? What would that look like? There are generally like two class of of thoughts there. One class of thoughts is like, hey, why don't we just turn our websites to be more agent ready, which everyone is trying to do, scratching the surface of that, and I think we're still in the exploratory phase of that. Um, but the other, class of thought, which I think is more of the approach that we're taking right now, and we're seeing a lot more sort of response to that, market response to that, is because there's always going to be a long tail of websites and web pages that would never actually catch up towards how fast, right, the whole industry is moving, right? There are certain sites, for instance, that won't actually update their thing with like slash markdown or adapt to a certain protocol unless someone does it for them, which is why we fundamentally believe that if it's a small, a salon somewhere, a small restaurant somewhere, a family business out there that don't have the resources to do all these things, or even the technical prowess to understand how to do these things, right? There's got to be a way for them to be more accessible as well. So the example, right, for instance, with Google Flights and Google Hotels, actually in Asia, a classic example that we saw for them, right, with Japan hotels. I don't know if have you been to Japan and
No, I
the
have
States?
not,
No.
unfortunately. Yeah, I know. I
Oh.
need to go. Yeah, it's
Next
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Next WorkOS trip. But one classic example I can give you is like whenever you try to book those stays, right? Before that, even Google themselves, you think, right, the biggest indexer on earth here, they had trouble actually accessing live pricing availability information. And this is about true for almost all the different long tail websites that we're describing here, all the small businesses, all the tiny fish of the world, right? What about them, right? How can they be more accessible by the future agents and where their websites are not, right, adaptable to the new standards? So that's where we come in. So we actually, taking back to the same use case, we would actually send our web agents live, going in, and we build a system such that they could predict when the next time those pricing availability things would change over time, and it will actually send our web agent to go in, acting like a human, go into a web page, launch it, click around, get the live information, fetch it back. And that way, it actually boosted a lot of these hotels' visibility online and make their business better so that they can focus on what they do best, which is to serve their customers. And I think that's the kind of, going back, I know it's a long winded answer to your question, but I think those two classes of thought eventually will merge, but it'll take time. And in the meantime, we'd like to lean back towards more the second category, which is helping the long tail.
So to play that back, it sounds like in addition to people making their own sites, maybe agent ready, you're kind of democratizing access for agents to all these things that otherwise might be left behind in the agentic world.
I think you summarized it much better than I did.
Love it. Cool. Well, Homer, thanks so much for stopping by, sharing more about Tiny Fish. It's great to catch up.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike, for inviting.